Join me today for a BattleTech sourcebook video as we talk about historical Operation Klondike. This is the Geek Ball channel. My name is Bobby, and like I said, we're going to be talking about BattleTech Historical Operation Klondike, which you can see here. This is a book published by Catalyst. Like I said, it's a source book, and it covers, well, Operation Klondike. And I'm about to explain what that is. So, unlike more recent Catalyst books, this one's a softcover book. As far as I'm aware, there is no hardcover version. And if it's available on Amazon, there's going to be an Amazon affiliate link if you want to purchase it that way. And I will say, as of the time of this recording, which is the third week of September, that the PDF for this is on sale on the Catalyst website. It's relatively cheap. It's like $6-7, I think. So, Operation Klondike. Now, you're going to need a little bit of backstory, and most of this should be in the book here. It's just that I've read it from multiple sources, so what I'm going to say might be more detailed than what's in the book, but I don't think it will be, because I'm going to attempt to be brief here. So, to understand what Operation Klondike is, this goes back to the origins of the clans. So, to be as briefly as possible here, you need to go back to the Amorous coup, when Stefan Amorous overthrew and killed the Cameron family, who were the rulers of the Terran hegemony and the Star League. Whoever was leading the Cameron family was the first Lord of the Star League. Stefan Amorous killed them all. And then General Alexander Kerensky, sorry, I got some of my eye there. General Alexander Kerensky was the commander of the Star League Defense Force. So General Alexander Kerensky was dealing with issues in the periphery. And upon realizing what had happened, immediately moved against the Rimworld Republic. Hang on. Make sure I get the name of this territory right. Yeah, Rimworld's Republic, which was where Amorous was from. So then he had to launch a campaign to liberate the Terran hegemony, which took years and uncovered atrocities that make the ones in World War II look timid by comparison. And upon reconquering Earth, the general had Amorous and his entire family executed. Then he turned to the lords, to the Star League, the council, to pick a new first lord. And yeah, that didn't go over too well. So their last few remaining official acts, they recognized Jerome Blake as the head of Comstar, as the only functioning organ of what was left of the Terran hegemony. And Jerome Blake attempted to convince Kerensky to just seize the throne, because he's like, you've got the army, like, the great houses can't really stand against you. You've got the loyalty of the men. There is no Cameron left. You know, you're an honorable man. The fact you don't want it says you're probably the guy that should have it. You know, and he tried all the arguments, none of them worked. Kerensky tried to get the lords to do something. Then they stripped him of his command, and then each essentially declared themselves the new First Lord of the Star League, which set the ball rolling for the succession wars to begin. Kerensky saw some of his men defect back to their home states and realized that his army was going to just slowly be dissolved or attacked, and he didn't want to see that happen to his men, and he didn't want to see the men and material he had help fuel the succession wars that he knew were coming. So he, along with I think it's around 80% of the Star League Defense Force, grabbed every bit of machinery, every jump ship, drop ship, everything they could for terraforming planets, cargo, just everything they could, and head out for parts unknown. Eventually, and a lot of this is detailed in the Founding of the Clans novel trilogy. I did some reviews on those. I'll link to them here. And some trials and tribulations happened on the way there with the Prinz Nguyen affair. Then eventually they arrived at the Pentagon Worlds, where they split up and resettled. And eventually the old hatreds came back as people started dividing up along the lines of like Capellan, Steiner, Davian, Kirita, and Merrick, and essentially everything fell into chaos, civil war. Kerensky's friend and second in command, De Chevalier, was killed in action. And then the second exodus began as those still loyal to Kerensky grabbed everything they could and took off for yet further parts unknown, and eventually found Strana Mekti, which translates to Land of Dreams. So upon landing, they began building a new society. Eventually, Alexander Kerensky died, and Nicholas Kerensky became the de facto leader. And Nicholas had some interesting ideas on how to rebuild society. Basically, completely scrapping old allegiances and rebuilding along the lines of 20 different groups, each named after an animal, and then among them, so many of the people became the founding members of the blood-named warriors, and then the other people got divided up into like the worker caste, the merchant caste, the scientist caste, and so on and so on. And so, I wish it was in my eye. And yeah, so they were the clans at that point. And some of the cons, more fully embraced this than some others, but they all, went along with it. They began advancing their weapons technology. They got the what are called the iron wombs up and running, which are how clan warriors are made. They're not born. They take the genetics of the previous generation, and the scientist caste recombines them into more favorable things, creates essentially clones. Or not clones, but like test tube babies, but they're not actually born from a woman, they're born from an artificial womb. And then those kids are put through a lot of trials and tribulations, and then the strong ones that come out the other end become the next group of members of the warrior caste. And they fight for the blood names they may be entitled to based on their genetic lineage. So, once all this was up and running, because Kerensky wanted to ensure that his legacy would continue even if he died in the next thing, which was Operation Klondike, the plan to retake the Pentagon Worlds and to make some of those people pay for what he believed causing the death of his father. Ultimately, after seeing everything, fall apart like that, killing his father's best friend and, forcing them off world. It was revenge as much as anything else. So, the core of the book details the various battles, which clans went where, what they faced, the kinds of opposition, and it goes into a lot of detail, far, far more than the Founding of the Clans trilogy does. That one goes into very sparse detail as far as a lot of the combat. So mainly because I'm sure people are like, well, the book's already right over here, it's written. And yeah, it's very interesting seeing who fought where, and who didn't make it from the initial clans. Like some of them lost some serious members. I think a few of the cons died in the process, if I recall correctly. And it's where the founder of Clan Jade Falcon, Elizabeth Hazen, where she really made a name for herself, and yeah, and others. So it's it's very detailed. It's a very good book. Uh, Possibly, it's probably tied for my favorite source book that I've read. Now, in fairness, I haven't read a ton of source books, but I would see this one and another one I'm going to be doing a review of real soon here get high praise. The other one's Wars of Reaving, also to deal with the clans. But yeah, this is the first major conflict involving the clans. This is what kind of cemented everything into place. This is how they recaptured the Pentagon Worlds, and the various clans, eventually set up shop on them. They, whatever the population was left over of the people after they re-invaded, eventually got absorbed into the clans, into various functions. And yeah, it's like I said, very detailed, very good book. If you're at all interested in that, it's very. It reads like a historical. It's not. There's not a whole lot of like first person. It's facts. This happened, which led to this. Then these people did this thing, and obviously better prose than that. But otherwise, pretty straightforward. There's a little short story at the beginning, and then there's a section detailing the various characters that we meet along the way, primarily like Nicholas Kerensky and Derry Kerensky, the various cons. Then it has the founding members of each of the clans, so you can see where all the blood names come from, all 20 of the clans, because this is before Clan Wolverine gets destroyed, which if you want to know about that, you need to read the book Betrayal of Ideals. Then some maps, so you can try to play out the sieges of the Pentagon Worlds, some force composition stuff in the back for that, and things talking about prototype clan technology, things that they would eventually use against the Inner Sphere. And yeah, since I don't play the game a whole lot, that last part's a little bit less interesting to me. I'm more interested in the lore side of things. But, if you want to, like, that stuff is there for you to try to replay those kind of things. But yeah, overall, like I said, it's a very informative book. It's a very good book. The bit that I mentioned at the beginning is covered in the book. That's the first few pages building up to them arriving on the Pentagon Worlds, and then it starts getting into like the details of the second Exodus, de Chevalier dying, the battles there once things erupted into open conflict, then founding Stronamecti, building up Stronamecti, and then going back to reclaim the Pentagon Worlds. That's the bulk of the book is that part, the actual Operation Klondike, which you would expect given the name, but just in case. So yeah, that's about all I can really say about it. Like I said, it's a really good source book, really good informative stuff if you don't know much about that era, and it's a very good companion to the Founding of the Clans trilogy. This, briefly discusses a lot of things that get fleshed out there, and it's also, in my opinion, an interesting companion to another source book I need to do a review on. That's one for the First Succession War, just to see like the different paths humanity ends up going down, because there's the delineation point where these folks leave known space and ultimately go off to become the clans, whereas everyone that remained in the Inner Sphere got to experience total warfare on a level heretofore unknown across humanity's little corner of the galaxy. And just the level of destruction that occurs is, beyond belief as far as the First Succession War. But just the idea of, these two things happening, in relative sync as far as a time scale, is interesting. The people that leave to go and make the new perfect society end up falling into the same baloney as the people that stayed behind, just on a smaller scale and with a different outcome. So, it's kind of depressing on one hand to think that, that's an actual probable outcome of all that. But, just infighting no matter where you go. But that's the way the setting is. People finding reasons to fight each other. I mean, it's for a war game. It's we kind of expected. Uh, and for the most part, they do find at least reasonably logical reasons for people to fight. So, anyway, if you're interested in the first major action of the clans, their founding, and you want a nice companion to the Founding of the Clans trilogy novels, if you've read them, check this book out. If you've not read either one, I'd maybe check this one out, and if you like it, then check out the Founding of the Clans trilogy. And again, if you want to know what's happening at the Inner Sphere at the same time, check out the first Succession War book, which I need to do a review on that sometime soon too. Kind of doing some backfilling here as I'm waiting for the Mercenaries Kickstarter stuff to show up. Supposedly it has shipped, so hopefully we'll be getting that sometime soon, in which case I will probably have unboxings for weeks at that point, because I'm going to spread them out. I'm not going to pile them up all in one day or anything. But I did order a lot of things, so we'll see the new box set, several of the stars and lance boxes. So, because I don't remember if I got one of everyone, but I definitely got most of them if I didn't. And yeah, so I'll go through those. And I believe I'm back at a high enough tier that I have some physical books showing up too. So I'll be able to talk about those. And then somewhere in there, I'll probably do a new, here's what all the box sets are actually for video. Explaining, if you want this, go with this one. If you want this, go with that one, kind of stuff. But I want to make sure I actually, have the Mercenaries box set before I do that. So, anyway, something to look forward to. Hopefully, that's in the next week or so that those will be starting. And I'll probably do a video of actually just opening up, the boxes and just show you everything I got. See that? That's the prelude to contents. So, anyway, let me know what you guys think. Have any of you out there checked this source book out? You lore folks, did I get anything wrong? I do actually appreciate the comments where you correct me whenever I get things wrong, because I don't want to be sitting here and spouting off bad information to people. So I do actually appreciate those comments. Thank you folks for throwing them out there. And you can check this book out. Do you want it in paperback? Do you want to check out the PDF that, as mentioned, is on sale? Again, on the Catalyst website. I'll try to link to that down in the description. But otherwise, like, share, subscribe. Always appreciate all those things. Sharing and commenting are probably the best ways to help things spread, and we definitely appreciate that. But otherwise, be on the lookout for the Wars of Reaving sourcebook review. That'll be the next thing, probably. But otherwise, thank you folks for watching, and remember, no guts, no galaxy.